Google breaks Pi Day, and more coming up on today's episode of the latest in tech news. Hey Gadget here, you're just in time for the latest episode of the world's only 3-in-1 show on everything tech, gadgets, and gaming news. That's right, this is the latest in tech news. My name is Taylor Merrick, and if you're new here, tap or click that subscribe button right now so that you don't miss a single episode. Now, I took a suggestion, which was to group all of the topics into the respective sections for tech news, for gadgets, for gaming news, so that you weren't wondering, well, what's coming up next? So I'm not going to have a segue in between any of them, but I'm going to do the best that I can in terms of grouping them so that you can kind of follow the train of thought, because this is 3 topics in one show, and maybe I should just do one topic, but I don't feel like that would fit. I've been doing podcasting for way too many years now to I don't know. I found my groove, as it were, and it's come a long way since me recording on a voice recorder in my car in negative temperatures just to get an episode out. I used to, well, I still do in a way, run a podcast by my own namesake, and that podcast, one episode, I actually had to say, guys, you're being too loud in the house. I can't record it upstairs. I can't record it downstairs because elephant feed or doors opening and closing, people talking, stuff going on. I need someplace quiet. I didn't have a studio at the time. I was a kid. When was I supposed to do? Tell my parents, hey, mom, dad, can I get a studio, like an audio studio? I can just record stuff. So I went out in my car and I recorded an episode, and that was cold, and I had to keep it short. And I still have that episode. It's still up there in the podcast files. But anyways, I'm starting to rant. I know you guys are interested in the tech stories going on for today. So let's head on over to the tech news. But before we do, we got 2 segments that we got to cover really quick. All right, first topic to cover is obviously our trivia. Now, last episode, I asked you guys a question. Now, time to see if you guys actually did the work and got the correct answers in. Last episode, I asked you, what is the best-selling video game of all time? Now, for as much as you guys say that you like trivia, I'm not seeing an interest. I make it really easy. Just reply to a tweet on Twitter that I post out with the hashtag LITN trivia. First answer correct wins. And, I didn't have anybody guessing. So if you want to play along, by all means, you are able to. But the answer to last episode's question is Tetris. I know, ironic. Released in 1984, available on multiple platforms. Take a guess at how many copies were sold. 170 million copies have been sold worldwide. Incredible number. There's only 2 other games that have managed in that time frame or shorter time frame to hit the 100 million plus copies sold. One of them is stupid Minecraft. Okay, anyways, so that was last episode's question. Today's episode, I have a new question for you guys. And if you're interested in playing along, all you have to do is submit your answer on Twitter by replying to the tweet with the question for today's trivia. The link to this tweet will also be listed in our show notes for this episode, or you can have it on over to twitter.com/TechNewsGadget. It'll be the hashtag LITN trivia. It'll be most likely the latest one if you're listening right now and you want to play right now. Keep in mind, the first correct answer will be announced in the next episode along with your Twitter username. So if you're looking for bragging rights saying, hey, I know tech, here you go. Here's your question for today's episode. That question is, how many iPhones have been sold worldwide? Taking your answers now. Be sure to hop on over to Twitter to submit your answer. All right. Before we can get to the news topics for today, I know you guys are all interested in that. We have to look back in tech history. Yes, I know. Today's Pi Day. Today is March 14th, 2019, and on this day in history, in 1955, Bell Labs announces Triadic, or the Giant Brain computer. AT&T Bell Laboratories announces the completion of the first fully transistorized computer Triadic. Triadic contained nearly 800 transistors, which replaced the standard vacuum tube and allowed the machine to operate on fewer than 100 watts, or 1/20th the power required by a comparable vacuum tube computer. The only thing I have to say about this interesting gadget is boot, you transistorized tormentor, boot. If you don't know where that reference is from, y'all need to seriously... Okay, I need to stop with the whole Southern drawl thing. You guys need to seriously get up on my level in terms of movies and TV shows and everything that I know. Take a wild guess at where that quote that I just gave you came from. Boot, you transistorized tormentor. Boot. You might be surprised. It's actually quite an interesting movie, and that's the only hint I'm going to be giving you guys. So go have fun guessing it. I'm going to note the answers. Actually, I'll tell you the answer. Do you want to know? Will you guess? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section down below. By the way, I'm recording this as a video right now that will be posted on Facebook and YouTube. So if you want to catch the video of this, head on over to facebook.com/TechNewsGadget or youtube.com/TechNewsGadget. And if you're listening for some odd reason or watching via video and you're like, well, I should be listening to this as a podcast instead. Well, we're available wherever podcasts are heard for you to listen however you want. LatestinTechNews.com. Get all your subscription options there. So with that out of the way, let's head on over to today's tech news. Now, obviously, I have some new news to announce and a record-breaking historical event to add to. Might as well add it while we're at it. A Google employee broke the world record for calculating pi. That's why this episode is titled Pi Day. Because today is 3.14159.7, and whatever the digits are after that, I've forgotten. But apparently, a Google employee broke that world record for calculating it. No, she didn't do it herself. We got a picture of her up on the screen right now. Her name is Emma Haruka Iwao. She calculated pi to 31 trillion digits, breaking the world record. Now, Google employee has used Google's cloud computing service to break the world record for calculating pi, an infinite number vital to engineering. Most people will be familiar with the first few digits of pi from geometry class. If you've been paying attention, today is 3.14. It's the number you get when you divide a circle's circumference by its diameter. Now, Iwao, a cloud developer advocate who has been working at Google for over 3 years, successfully calculated pi to 31 trillion digits, beating the previous record by 9 trillion. Google announced their accomplishment today, which just so happens to be Pi Day. By the way, if you guys haven't had any pie today, you probably should, and if you haven't, well, you're too late. Wait till next year. It's kind of like Donut Day. It only comes around once a year. So if you didn't get your pie, you better get that quick. The calculation required huge amounts of data processing using the program Y-Cruncher on a Google Compute Engine cluster. She ate through 170 terabytes of data over about 4 months. To give a sense of scale, the BBC writes that roughly 200,000 music tracks totaled just 1 terabyte, and filling 1 terabyte hard drive is kind of an interesting thing to try and do as well. She also made a YouTube video that they posted to the Google account. You can also read Google's technical explanation here. They have a link. This is the first time cloud computing has been used to calculate pi and break the record. A Yahoo engineer used the company's cloud tech in 2010 to calculate the 2 quadrillionth digit of pi, but did not calculate all the numbers in between. She told the BBC she's not done with pi. There is no end, she said. I would love to try with more digits. So, there you have it. Congratulations. Also a new record-breaking world accomplishment. So now we can add that along to Triadic. We can also announce the whole pi calculation thing. So there you have it. All right. In the next news article we have up for today is, are we alone? Tiny spacecraft will head to Alpha Centauri to find out. Now, this article was written back in August of 2018, and I know you're like, well, why is this an old article? Well, this article popped up in my feed, and I started reading it. This is actually a long, in-depth article that's quite impressive in terms of the amount of research going in, the writing, the images, and everything that went along with it. This is a big story. an impressive one at that. I enjoy it when I get a nice long article that I can just sit there and read and enjoy. It takes me back to watching Nova on PBS. If any of you are familiar with that program in the United States, I don't know. I love technology. I like reading and researching into stuff, but this one caught my eye. So, by the way, if you're interested in any of the articles that we mentioned today, the show notes are available at technewsgadget.net/88. Marty! We're not going back to the future. I was shooting a laser beam out into space, dudes. So, also, if you're listening via the podcast, all you gotta do is scroll up or tap or swipe or however you get more details or more information for this episode, and you can literally tap on the link in the show notes and it'll open up the article for you. How cool is technology? Aren't you glad you're listening to the podcast? And if you're watching the video, you guys are missing out. Anyways, nearly 50 years after the first human set foot on the moon, maybe it's time for a new challenge in space. How about finding out in our lifetimes if there's life on planets, or seeing more outside the galaxy of our own solar system? That's the goal of a project called Breakthrough Starshot, the brainchild of a Russian billionaire, a former director of NASA's Ames Research Center, and a group of high-level physicists and engineers. They hope to send hundreds of tiny spacecraft to the Alpha Centauri star system, where they'll examine planets for signs of life. It's a monumental engineering challenge that will require huge leaps in technology for spacecraft design, propulsion, and communication. The attempt by SpaceX and Tesla chief executive Elon Musk to get humans to Mars looks like a neighborhood stroll by comparison, but if Breakthrough Starshot succeeds, we could get snapshots of the Alpha Centauri system 4 light years away, roughly the same as 6,800 trips to Pluto, in about 30 to 40 years' time from now. And maybe we'll get a better idea of just how cool or rare or any form of, I guess if you find life, okay. I'd really love to interject my personal opinion here, but for the sake of it, I'm not. Let me see. Starshot isn't the kind of space mission that you're used to. It won't use a mammoth rocket to propel a heavy spacecraft. NASA's New Horizons interplanetary probe weighed a bit more than half ton, for example. Instead, Breakthrough Starshot plans to use a giant Earth-based laser array to shoot a fleet of nearly weightless spacecraft traveling much, much faster. The spacecraft could be just 3 to 12 feet across and weigh as little as a thimble full of water. Now, how much faster will they travel? Well, a Starshot spacecraft could move at a fifth the speed of light, 134 million miles per hour, to get to the 3 stars of the Alpha Centauri system in just over 20 years. Once there, they'll whiz right through, snapping photos fiercely and then sending us the data from the far side of the trip. In comparison, New Horizons took 9.5 years to reach Pluto. Now, you could argue the Starshot idea came from famous 16th century astronomer Johannes Kepler, who wrote in a letter to fellow brainiac Galileo Galilei, "With ships or sails built for heavenly breezes, some will venture into that great vastness." So, I'm going to sum up a little bit about the article. Apparently, they're saying that if you can get a light enough spacecraft, we're not going to have humans on it. We're not going to have all this machinery. We can actually take all the technology and shrink it down into these chips, 3 to 12 feet across, weigh virtually nothing, and then put them on this parasail type thing. And instead of it being harnessed by light sources coming from like the sun or stars or wherever it happens to be, it'll get a solid singular beam of light and it'll confined in a laser array from Earth to blast it out there at about 60,000 times the speed. In about mere moments, it'll be past the orbit of the moon, shooting across faster than any spacecraft that we've ever sent across like the solar system before. Quite an impressive number. And seeing as how they actually have some pictures that go along with it, which is a Starshot nanocraft like this tiny Earth orbiting satellite on a chip called KickSat, will have to carry sensors, a computer, and a laser, all with about the same mass as a paperclip. This is like sci-fi technology where you sit there and you go, what the heck? Do you think they could actually do it? Well, yeah, they actually think it's quite possible that you could do it. Detailed destinations plans will evolve as an actual launch date nears. The Starshot plan initially called for a tiny package of electronics attached to a flat light sail, perhaps 1 to 4 meters across. Researchers are now favoring a new idea, the comparably sized spherical light sail studded with electronics. Think of it as a large ping pong ball with computers and cameras pointing in different directions. The big advantage, the spherical shape, coupled with a hollow laser beam that's stronger toward its outside edge, could be naturally centered on the beam throughout the acceleration, which will essentially just blast it off in this big, huge, concentrated laser beam. And you'll hit what something like 60,000 G-force. Keep in mind that the Earth pulls you to the ground with a force of 1 G. That's the same as a bullet shot from a gun, but protracted for minutes instead of a split second. Afterward, the nanocraft would be 6 times the distance from the Earth to the moon and traveling far faster than anything else humans have ever built. If you could fly a plane at that clip, you'd circle the Earth equator in 2/3 of a second. So obviously they're still testing it out. They're trying to figure out ways that you have to keep it perfectly aligned and centered on the beam. Fortunately, lasers are becoming more economical. Laser power is doubling every 20 months. And the cost is halving every 34 months. Even so, you can expect a laser array to cost something around $10 billion, but it'll be a complex array, and then building light sail material that won't vanish off into a puff of ash when hit by that big old laser beam. So it's quite impressive. So if you guys want to read more, the title for it is Are We Alone? Tiny Spacecraft Will Head to Alpha Centauri to Find Out. And this is an article by CNET. All right, in the next news that we have for today, apparently the Facebook app is getting a new gaming tab in the navigation bar. Well, Facebook, in a further attempt to compete with the likes of Twitch and YouTube, has added a dedicated gaming tab to the navigation bar in the main app. In doing so, the company is hoping to help you find games and streamers to watch, whether you want to play something new with your friends or catch up on the latest esports match. Although I really haven't seen much esports going on Facebook gaming. So I don't know. All I've seen so far is streaming across the feed or wherever when I'm browsing for gaming is mainly individual streaming, not really any esports. I could be wrong. You guys could probably say, well, I'm watching esports on Facebook right now. It's great. Well, it's great. Wonderful. Originally launching fb.gg last year as a hub for all things gaming, Facebook is definitely throwing its weight into the lucrative game streaming market. It offers users a means to find new content to watch, streamers to interact with, and communities to engage in. Facebook's goal is to draw in streamers and viewers alike with its virtual currency tipping system, from which it draws a scaling percentage for itself, kind of like Twitch has with bits and Mixer has with Embers. Reportedly, Facebook will be rolling out the new gaming tab to users in batches, with more receiving it as it grows. Now, it's definitely a wise idea to put this gaming tab front and center, meaning that people will either have to see it as they swipe to a different section of the app, or it will catch their attention simply with its presence. So now the real question is, can Facebook dominate or take more market share away from Twitch, the obvious top dog in this, Mixer, the one that's a tenth of the traffic, YouTube, which is mainly known for just watching videos, not so much live streaming, so they're still trying to play catch up in there, and they're kind of in between number 2 and number 3, and then there's FB Gaming. We'll see. Maybe they're just going to try and say, well, we have enough money, we have resources, it really costs us nothing extra to just slap it into the app and see how it goes. Will it be annoying? I don't know. I didn't like the design that they changed, where they're like, well, see, we changed the app, so now if you want to actually see your profile, which we ironically figured out that most users want to see all the time, all you have to do is click this little app, or this little icon, this little like portrait icon, you'll go right to your profile. So that's great. We'll see how it goes. Also, in the news that we have today, more along the gadget lines, it looks like Google is thinking about a folding screen of its own. And I actually have a picture on here of a folding screen. Now, a recent patent application filed by Google suggests the search giant is experimenting with foldable display technology, similar to the panel seen on the Huawei Mate X and Samsung Galaxy Fold. Now, the filing describes a method for constructing an OLED panel that can be bent repeatedly and used in a modern computing device. Now, what's interesting here is that Google doesn't produce any displays of its own and isn't the kind of company that really manufactures its own handsets either. Like Apple with its iPhones, Google reportedly outsources manufacturing of the Pixel 3 to Foxconn, and both HTC and LG shared manufacturing duties on the Pixel 2 phones. Now, that doesn't mean it's impossible for a product based on this patent to see the light of day. It's just that in the event it does, it'll probably be because Google licensed it out to a third party rather than producing a foldable screen itself. So there's a couple images that go along with it. Hopefully, we'll see what comes of this. Ironically, the patent goes on to display a possible folding device that could be bent in two different places called a Z-fold display without breaking, thanks to whatever sounds like a smaller number of layers required when building the screen of the device. Now, we're not display manufacturing experts. The Verge isn't who has this article written, but it's not clear whether Google would ever build such a thing or why we'd want a Z Fold. But the survivability of folding phones is definitely still an open question. We're still early on in the stages of bendable technology, especially when it comes to displays. Samsung's Galaxy Fold is rated to survive hundreds of thousands of folds, while Gorilla Glass manufacturer Corning is developing a glass screen that can be folded and it hopes will be more durable than existing plastic solutions. Now, it's important to mention that Google's patent doesn't even mention the word phone once. Instead, it refers to how the display could be used by modern computing devices. Sounds to me like we're talking about phones, but it could refer to tablets, possibly even laptops, assuming that they're still working on tablets and laptops anymore. Apparently they decided, oh, you don't like the tablets, but maybe the Chromebook, ... Google's interest in foldable phones has so far focused on the software aspect of their design. It added support for foldable displays into Android last year and also worked with Samsung to ensure that Android would work as the Galaxy Fold's operating system. Clearly, foldable phones are important to the future of Android, and Google appears to be interested in both the hardware as well as the software. Heading on, apparently, more gaming news. The Division 2 feels more alive, filled with NPCs and challenging combat encounters. Now, I haven't played the game. This article is by Charlie Hall at Polygon, so whatever he says is his opinion. You might have your own different opinions on it. I, for one, haven't bought Division 2 yet. I'm interested in it. I'd like to get it. From what I've heard so far about it, from the trailers I've seen, people I've talked to, I'm definitely excited for it. So, The Division 2 has been one of my most anticipated games since it was first announced, and after about a dozen hours with the game over several days, I'm extremely impressed. I'm nowhere near the endgame content yet, and I'm not in a hurry to get there. The single-player game has my attention thanks to an intensity and a pace that feels exceptional. I played hundreds of hours of the original Tom Clancy's The Division, a game that came out in 2016. In many ways, it was quite a bit ahead of its time. Ubisoft was trying to follow up on the MMO FPS model pioneered by Bungie with the original Destiny, but with a launch plagued by bugs and raids that many felt were repetitive and dull, the bulk of its audience seemed to drift away by early 2017. But I went back to Ubisoft's vision of New York City over and over again, ferreting out every collectible and running down even the most obscure bits of storyline. I spent a lot of time in there, and I'm here to tell you that the Division 2's Washington, D.C. feels completely different. Navigating NYC in the Division was a bit like walking through a deserted amusement park in a horror movie. The refuse of a collapsing city was all around you, piling up in layers of environmental storytelling. Every once in a while, something scary would happen involving guns, but all too often, my only companions were orange-colored holograms, in-fiction recreations of historical events captured by a network of surveillance cameras. Simply put, the Division was lonely. Now, by contrast, the opening hours with Division 2 are teeming with life. For one, roving bands of allied militia members are a common occurrence. My HUD informs me that they're out on patrol or scavenging for food. Often I'm able to jump in and help them to push back armed thugs or other undesirables, but it feels that there are more enemies as well. They seem to travel in larger packs too. Even low-level engagements can be challenging, and fights are often multi-dimensional firefights that swirl around me. In the Division 2, I'm not working a firing line and pushing down the street like I was in a Division. I'm continuously advancing and retreating, moving from cover to cover, while the familiar cadence of aim, shoot, and move has turned into a kind of improvisational staccato on my DualShock 4, and I'm really enjoying it. But the environments have texture to them as well. Texture that goes beyond grimy floors and piles of trash. It's not just empty, endless streets and the occasional green space either. Unique environmental features, especially enemy strongholds, give each region of the game world its own flavor. Landmarks are often co-opted as enemy strongholds, places that these same thugs have fortified with heavy weapons and claimed as their own. To root them out, I'm able to send up a flare and my friends in the militia come running, more than capable of supporting my assault. More problematic, however, are Division 2's ad hoc multiplayer features. Just last night, in the hour between dinner and the start of my weekly Dungeons & Dragons game, I had an hour to kill. So I booted up the Division 2, picked out a side mission, and got to work. About 20 minutes in, I hit a difficulty spike. The final boss and I were having out again and again. Every time they were getting better of me. So after one particularly grating death, I tapped the button on the screen to call for backup. Sending a backup request sends out a ping that other players in the vicinity can hear. But it's so common, it's so annoying that one of the biggest search topics right now, and on Reddit most discussed, is figuring out how to turn it off. So I sat there for another 30 minutes screaming into the void and asking for help. No one came to my aid. In addition to the complexity of the maneuvers required to take down a boss level encounter in the Division 2, all the sticking to cover and releasing from it, all the leaping between levels of elevation, all the aiming and hiding and running and reloading, in addition to all that, the boss encounters are really quite hard. It's possible that the developers built some of that difficulty into these encounters in order to encourage players to team up, but if the system that is being used is so annoying that people switch it off, that could be upsetting the game's balance. Or I'm simply attempting encounters that are too challenging for my abilities. Either way, I'd love for some changes to be made, for it to be easier and more enjoyable for me to find other players casually in the open world. I'm not interested in partying up with the group for a longer period of time, I just need a little help every now and then. And it seems to be, for me, I'm talking now, that some games that have this like request for help, or you can team up with somebody for a certain group for a short amount of time, does have its challenges. The Destiny has its challenges. I'm trying to think. Bloodborne has its challenges, along with a couple others. Then you have players who either brand new and have no idea what to do, are so under-equipped they die right away, or they just run right over everything and run right through the whole entire story. And you're like, guys, will you slow down? I just, for crying out loud, this is the first time I'm doing this. I needed help. I needed you guys to come in and help. What the heck? So I don't know. I think, for me personally, they should probably start tinkering around a little bit more, and Division 2 is definitely a great place to start. Why? Because that game is unique, it's different, it feels fun, it feels, I don't know, it feels unlike any other game out there. It definitely has its own niche carved out for it in a way, but yeah, but that's small potatoes. Apparently, according to the author, when it comes down to it, Division 2 feels full, both of content and non-player characters, and has to change for the better. So, for those of you who have Division 2 so far, how are you enjoying the game so far? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm interested, and seriously, if you like it enough, I'll probably break down and buy the game, because I'm really interested in buying it. I might just say, forget waiting, I'm buying it right now. Click. In the next gaming news that we have for you today, Steam Link Anywhere beta is taking the PC game streaming on the road. So, Valve is giving a major expansion to its game streaming service. Just ahead of the 2019 Game Developers Conference, the company announced the release of Steam Link Anywhere, a new feature that will let gamers remotely access and play their favorite titles on basically any machine with Steam and an internet connection. Currently in early beta, Steam Link Anywhere is available on the discontinued Steam Link hardware or through the Steam Link app. When installed, the app essentially makes your game library available to you anywhere. I was actually kind of wondering, because every single time I boot up my computer, Steam has to like load and update and install software or whatever, so I knew it was in the cloud. That means you can stream your favorite games from your primary computer to another computer, Android device, or Android TV set-top box. Apple is still blocking the Steam app, so you won't be able to play games on iOS or Apple TV for the time being. Previously, the app only worked within a person's home on machines connected to the same network. The only requirements for Steam Link Anywhere to work, other than having the app installed on both your home and remote machines, are a good upload speed from your host computer and strong network connection for the device you're playing on. So obviously this seems to imply that you need to have your home computer on if you want to play a game. Steam Link Anywhere, available in the Steam Link's app beta build 688, is arriving just before GDC 2019, where a number of competitors are expected to show off similar technology. Google has been teasing a major gaming announcement set for March 19th, which is believed to be a cloud-based game streaming service using the company's Project Stream technology. Microsoft has also been working on its own, called Project xCloud, and recently showed off a demo of the tech in action. Now, if the rush to market from three major players is any indication, we should soon have several choices for a Netflix of gaming-style service. And finally, the gaming news for today. And the last article that I have for you guys today is Battlefield 5 Firestorm Battle Royale mode releases soon. And, well, they dropped a new trailer. And if you're interested in a trailer or the articles that I've been talking about so far, head on over to technewsgadget.net/88. And there you'll have all the show notes to click on any article you want. Speaking of which, Battlefield 5's take on Battle Royale has been much anticipated ever since publisher EA first said it would be jumping on the genre bandwagon. Even though it took them forever for the initial release, and a lot of people were upset. Following a delay, we've finally gotten our first glimpse at Battlefield 5's take on the mode of the moment with the new trailer for Firestorm. It's unfortunately devoid of any gameplay, in case you guys are wondering, as the entire thing is showcased from a cinematic perspective, just like Blackout was. Although the video is our first official look at the mode, another video leaked online showing just recently a bunch of the game's mode and the general setup of a match. We now know that much of the information was true, just as in PUBG, Blackout, Fortnite. You can play in solos, duos, or squads, while each match will begin with players parachuting out of a plane, then scrambling to find weapons and other items to help them survive. The mode will launch on March 25th. EA has previously said that Firestorm will support up to 64 players. Unlike the rest of the game, the mode isn't being developed by DICE, but rather Criterion, the studio behind the Need for Speed series. The mode derives its name from the ring of fire that gradually closes in on the battlefield as matches progress. Firestorm will arrive for free as part of Battlefield 5's third chapter of content, Trial by Fire, which kicks off later this month. So if all of you guys who bought Battlefield 5 have been waiting for this time to finally turn back on your system, boot up the game, and play, March 25th, you can finally play the third chapter of content and be able to finally play this new Battle Royale mode. In the meantime, the final event of Chapter 2, Lightning Strikes, dubbed Unstoppable Force, is now live. Along with 2 weekly challenges, the event brings back the fan favorite Rush mode, but it'll only be around until March 20th. And with that, that wraps up today's tech news. By the way, thanks for tuning in, guys. New episodes every weekday. The latest in tech news is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Overcast, and everywhere else podcasts are hurled, I guess, if you want. You can also watch the video on Facebook or YouTube. Both are /TechNewsGadget. By the way, if we missed something on the show that you want us to hear or talk about, let us know on our Twitter and Facebook pages. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe as well. I'm your host, Taylor Merrick, and remember, for the latest in tech, gadgets, and gaming news, visit TechNewsGadget.net. Pretty much, keep being awesome, guys, and I'll see you on the flip side.